December 17, 1944, 1:15 p.m., Bonnier Crossroads, Belgium. Sergeant Kenneth Ahrens stands in a frozen field with 119 other Americans, hands raised, surrounded by SS soldiers in black winter camouflage. The temperature is 20 degrees. His breath comes out in white clouds. He can hear German half-tracks idling at the road junction 50 yards away, their engines rumbling like angry beasts. Battery B, 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion, had surrendered 15 minutes ago after a 5-minute firefight. They never had a chance of winning. German panzers versus American jeeps and rifles. The math was simple. They threw down their weapons, raised their hands, expected to be marched to a POW camp. That's what the Geneva Convention promised. That's what prisoners of war were supposed to get. Instead, they got herded into this field like cattle. SS soldiers walk among them, confiscating watches, rings, wallets, anything valuable. One German stops next to Private James O'Brien from Massachusetts, looks him in the eye, raises a Luger pistol, and shoots him twice in the chest. O'Brien drops without a sound. The Americans freeze. What the hell just happened? Before anyone can process it, machine guns on the half-tracks swivel toward the field. Ahrens sees the barrels turning, sees the gunners taking aim, realizes what's about to happen. He drops. Doesn't think. Just drops flat into the snow a split second before the guns open fire. The sound is deafening, a continuous roar that drowns out everything else. Americans scream, fall, die in the first 3 seconds. Bodies collapse on top of Ahrens, pinning him face first into the frozen ground. He tastes blood, doesn't know if it's his or someone else's. The weight of 3 corpses crushes him into the snow. He doesn't move, doesn't breathe, plays dead while the machine guns tear through his friends. The firing lasts 30 seconds, maybe 40, feels like an hour. When it stops, Ahrens hears groaning. Wounded Americans crying for help, calling for medics, begging God for mercy. Then German voices, boots crunching in the snow. The SS soldiers are walking through the field of bodies, checking for survivors. Ahrens hears a wounded man 20 feet away start praying. Our Father, who art in heaven. A single pistol shot. The prayer stops. The boots keep moving, getting closer. Ahrens holds his breath, forces his body absolutely still despite the cold, despite the crushing weight, despite the terror screaming in his brain to run. A German stops 3 feet away. Ahrens can hear him breathing, hear the creak of leather gear. The soldier kicks the body on top of Ahrens, testing for movement. Ahrens doesn't flinch. The German moves on. More groans, more pistol shots. This continues for 30 minutes. Private Ted Paluch is lying 30 yards from Ahrens with a rifle barrel pressed against his skull. An SS soldier is checking if he's dead. Paluch doesn't breathe for 60 seconds while that barrel stays against his head. Finally, the German pulls away, satisfied. Paluch survived by not breathing with a gun to his brain. Lieutenant Virgil Larry, the battery commander, is shot in the arm but conscious, bleeding into the snow, pretending to be dead while Germans walk past him twice. Private William Merrican tried to run when the shooting started, got hit in the leg, went down 50 yards from the group. Now he's crawling toward the tree line inch by inch while SS soldiers finish off the wounded behind him. A German sees him, raises a rifle, fires, misses. Merrican freezes, plays dead. The soldier walks over, stands above him, kicks him hard in the ribs. Merrican doesn't react. The German kicks him again. Still nothing. The soldier moves on. Merrican waits 5 minutes, then keeps crawling. He makes it to the woods. He'll survive. Corporal Michael Saranko is buried under 4 bodies, wasn't hit during the machine gun fire, just got lucky when dead men fell on him. A German stops next to his pile of corpses, fires 3 pistol shots into the bodies. 1 bullet passes inches from Saranko's head. He doesn't move for another hour. Homer Ford, the military policeman who'd been directing traffic at the crossroads, is shot multiple times in the chest, abdomen, and legs. He's dying, but conscious. He watches a German approach a wounded American 10 feet away. The American is crying, begging. Please, I have a wife, kids, please don't. The German shoots him in the head, turns to Ford. Ford closes his eyes, stops breathing. The German walks past. Ford survives. Barely. He'll testify about watching men begging for mercy get executed point blank. At 1:45 p.m., 30 minutes after the machine guns opened fire, the German column finishes moving through the crossroads. The half-tracks and armored cars that stayed behind to guard the prisoners roll away, continuing west toward the Meuse River. The field falls silent. 84 Americans are dead, shot down after surrendering, executed in violation of every rule of warfare. But 43 men survived by playing dead, running, or pure luck. Ahrens waits until he can't hear German engines, then counts to 500. Finally, he pushes the corpses off, looks around the field. Bodies everywhere. Some face down in snow. Some on their backs staring at gray December sky. Some in groups where they fell when the machine guns fired. Others scattered across the field where they tried to run. Blood has turned the white snow bright red. He sees movement. Another survivor crawling toward the tree line. Ahrens crawls too, doesn't stand, doesn't want to be visible from the road. He crawls through blood-soaked snow, past friends, past men who were alive 30 minutes ago. He reaches the tree line, finds 3 other survivors. Ted Paluch, William Merrican, Private Albert Valenzi from New Jersey. They don't speak, just nod, acknowledge each other, start moving through the woods north toward Malmedy. The temperature is dropping. Sun sets in 2 hours. They need American lines before dark because if German patrols catch them, the SS won't take prisoners twice. They stumble through forest, wounded, freezing, traumatized. At 4:30 p.m., they encounter an American patrol, 291st Combat Engineer Battalion. The engineers are startled by 4 men covered in blood, half frozen. "What happened?" the lieutenant asks. Ahrens tries to speak, can't, finally manages, "They shot us. We surrendered and they shot all of us." The lieutenant doesn't understand. "Who shot you?" "SS, German SS, at the crossroads. They machine-gunned the whole battery, everyone with their hands up." The lieutenant's face goes pale. "How many?" "Maybe 150 men. I don't know how many made it out." The massacre at Bonnier didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened during Hitler's last great offensive, Operation Watch on the Rhine, the Battle of the Bulge. By December 1944, Germany was losing. The Allies had landed at Normandy June 6th, fought across France all summer, liberated Paris in August. By September, American and British forces were pushing into Belgium, closing on the German border. The Red Army was crushing Wehrmacht divisions on the Eastern Front, 400 miles from Berlin. Germany was being squeezed from both sides. Hitler knew this. His generals knew this. Everyone understood Germany couldn't win a war of attrition against America, Britain, and the Soviet Union combined. But Hitler refused to surrender. Instead, he gambled. One last offensive in the West. Strike through the Ardennes forest. Split the American and British armies. Capture Antwerp. Destroy 30 Allied divisions. Force negotiated peace in the West. Then redeploy everything east to fight the Soviets. It was desperate. Probably impossible. But Hitler saw no other option that didn't end in Germany's total defeat. The offensive began 5:30 a.m. December 16, 1944. 200,000 German soldiers, 1,000 tanks, 2,000 artillery pieces launched against a 75-mile stretch of American line in the Ardennes sector, defended by just 4 divisions, most inexperienced or recovering from combat elsewhere. Americans had assumed the Ardennes was quiet, thick forests and narrow roads, poor tank country, not a likely attack route. They were catastrophically wrong. The German assault smashed through American positions in the first 24 hours. Panic spread. Entire units surrendered. Others ran. Equipment abandoned. Classified documents burned in ditches. The German 6th SS Panzer Army, commanded by SS General Sepp Dietrich, was assigned the northern shoulder. Their objective: cross the Meuse River, capture Antwerp. The spearhead was Kampfgruppe Peiper, named for its commander, SS Lieutenant Colonel Joachim Peiper. 29 years old, Eastern Front veteran, personal adjutant to Heinrich Himmler, 1938-1941, holder of the Knight's Cross with oak leaves and swords, one of the most decorated officers in the Waffen-SS. Peiper got 117 tanks, 700 vehicles, 5,000 men, and simple orders: reach the Meuse bridges ahead of everyone else. Speed was everything. The offensive depended on capturing Allied fuel depots because German tanks were running on fumes, maybe 3 days' fuel total. So Peiper's orders were clear: move fast, don't stop for anything, don't waste time on prisoners, just keep moving west. Before the offensive began, Hitler issued orders about conduct: no mercy, no quarter. This wasn't conventional military operation. This was total war, the brutal combat Germans waged on the Eastern Front against Soviets. Sepp Dietrich later testified Hitler personally told him no prisoners were to be taken, no pity shown to Belgian civilians. The offensive must be conducted with wave of terror and fright. In the SS, these orders filtered down through ranks to division commanders, regimental commanders, men like Joachim Peiper. The 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler had a reputation from the Eastern Front. Massacres, killed Soviet prisoners, burned villages, executed civilians, standard operating procedure in the war against the Soviet Union. Now they were bringing those same tactics to the Western Front. December 17th, second day of the offensive, Kampfgruppe Piper was moving fast. They'd captured Hansfeld in surprise dawn attack, killed American soldiers still in beds, captured a dozen Sherman tanks, then diverted to Bullingen, where Americans had a fuel depot. Piper needed gasoline, his tanks already running low. At Bullingen, his SS troops executed approximately 50 American prisoners. Engineers and support personnel guarding the fuel dump shot them in cold blood, left bodies in the street. Then Piper's column refueled and continued west, bypassing towns, sticking to back roads, moving as fast as narrow Belgian lanes allowed. Around 1 p.m., Kampfgruppe Piper approached Bonnier Crossroads 2 miles from Malmedy. At the exact same moment, Battery B of the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion was passing through the same crossroads heading south towards St. Vith. A column of 30 vehicles, jeeps, weapons carriers, 2 1-2-ton trucks, 140 men. They had no idea a German armored column was less than a mile away. Battery B, 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion, wasn't a combat unit in the traditional sense. They didn't charge enemy positions, fight in trenches, assault bunkers. Their job was technical, specialized, unglamorous. They were the eyes for big artillery guns miles behind front lines. The 285th formed in 1943 at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, the Army's artillery training center. Young men from across America arrived to learn the complex mathematics of indirect fire, how to calculate range, adjust for wind, compensate for Earth's rotation when firing at extreme distances. These weren't frontline soldiers. They were technicians, radio operators, surveyors, men who could read maps, use rangefinders, operate sophisticated equipment. Battery B consisted of 140 men divided into observation teams. Some operated sound-ranging equipment detecting enemy artillery by listening to distinctive cracks of different guns. Others used flash-ranging systems triangulating enemy positions by observing muzzle flash. Still others worked with forward observers moving close to front lines to spot targets and call in coordinates. Kenneth Ahrens was one of them. Sergeant Kenneth F. Ahrens, serial number 33409504, born and raised Erie, Pennsylvania, Great Lakes town, working-class family. Before the war, Ahrens worked at a manufacturing plant making parts for the war effort before becoming part of it himself. Enlisted 1942, 21 years old, went through basic then artillery school at Fort Sill, learned technical skills that made him valuable in an observation battalion. He wasn't a natural soldier, no military family tradition, no burning desire to fight. But in 1942, after Pearl Harbor, young men like Ahrens didn't have choice. You joined up, did your part, went where the Army sent you. For Ahrens, that meant Europe. Battery B deployed September 1944, landed in France weeks after D-Day, moved through liberated territory, set up observation posts supporting advancing Allied armies. By December, they were in Belgium operating in the Hurtgen Forest sector, one of the bloodiest battles on the Western Front. American infantry divisions getting chewed up fighting through dense woods against determined German resistance. Battery B provided fire support, setting up positions, observing German artillery, radioing back coordinates, then American 155 Miner howitzers pounding German positions. It was dangerous work, but not suicidal. Observation posts were usually a few miles behind front line, close enough to see enemy, far enough to avoid direct combat. The men of Battery B had been in Belgium weeks when the German offensive began. December 16th. They heard reports of German attacks south. Confusion spread through American command channels. Nobody knew how big the attack was. Nobody understood what Germans were trying to do. By morning, December 17th, orders came down. Battery B would relocate, move from positions near Hurtgen Forest to new area near St. Vith, about 30 miles south. Standard procedure, artillery units moved constantly repositioning to support different sectors. The convoy formed up mid-morning, 30 vehicles, jeeps carrying officers and radios, weapons carriers with equipment, 2 1-2-ton trucks loaded with supplies. The men didn't know about the massacre at Bullingen earlier that morning, didn't know about SS columns racing west, didn't know they were driving straight into Kampfgruppe Piper's path. Lieutenant Virgil Larry led the convoy, first lieutenant, battery commander, 28 years old, from Kentucky, University of Kentucky graduate, ROTC commission, professional, competent, careful about following orders. At Bonnier Crossroads, there was a military policeman directing traffic, Private Homer Ford, standing in middle of junction waving vehicles through. Ford saw the American convoy approaching from north, waved them through the intersection. It was 12:30 p.m. The convoy spread out along several hundred yards of road, typical march formation, vehicles spaced to avoid bunching up in case of air attack. Lead jeeps cleared crossroads, then weapons carriers, then trucks, everything proceeding normally. Then, at 1 p.m., German tanks appeared from the east, moving fast on the road from Thirimont. Panzers, half-tracks, Black Cross insignia clearly visible. The lead German tank opened fire immediately. High explosive shell hit the last American vehicle, destroyed it, blocked the road. Another shell hit the lead vehicle, stopped the convoy dead. Americans scattered. Some ran for ditches. Others tried returning fire with rifles and carbines. It was pointless. You don't fight Panzer tanks with M1 Garand rifles. The German column had at least 20 armored vehicles at the crossroads, tanks, half-tracks, self-propelled guns, all firing. Americans were trapped, no cover, no support, no way to fight back. The firefight lasted 5 minutes. Approximately 50 Americans killed in initial shooting. The rest surrendered, hands up, weapons down, universal signal of defeat. SS soldiers dismounted, moved among Americans, searching them, taking ID papers, confiscating watches and rings and anything valuable. The Americans were herded into a field beside the crossroads, approximately 120 men standing there, hands raised, while German column continued moving. Some tanks and half-tracks rolled past, continuing west. Piper himself never stopped, was in one of the lead vehicles pushing forward, staying on schedule, but a portion of his command remained at the crossroads guarding prisoners, making sure none escaped. Kenneth Ahrens stood in that field surrounded by fellow soldiers, men he'd trained with at Fort Sill, shipped overseas within September, worked alongside 3 months in Belgian forests. Homer Ford, the MP who'd been directing traffic. Lieutenant Larry, the battery commander. Private Ted Paluch from Pennsylvania, 24 years old. Private William Merrican from New York, 21. These weren't seasoned combat veterans. Most had been in Europe less than 3 months. Some never fired weapons in combat. They were technicians, specialists, the kind of soldiers every modern army needs but rarely celebrates. They stood in the frozen field watching German soldiers walk among them and believed they'd be marched to POW camp, because that's what happened when soldiers surrendered. Under Geneva Convention, prisoners of war must be treated humanely, fed, sheltered, protected from violence. American prisoners were sent to camps, processed. Eventually, after the war ended, they'd be repatriated. That's what the rules said, what international law required. But Kampfgruppe Piper wasn't following rules. At 1:15 p.m., an SS officer emerged from one of the half-tracks. Witnesses later identified him as either SS Major Werner Poetschke or someone acting under his orders. The officer spoke briefly to SS soldiers guarding prisoners, then left, continued west with main column. 2 minutes later, an SS soldier raised his pistol, shot 2 Americans point blank. The Americans collapsed. Other prisoners stared in shock, unsure what was happening. Then machine guns opened fire from the half-tracks, raking the field where 120 American soldiers stood with hands raised. To understand what happened at Bonnier, you have to understand the man whose unit committed the massacre. SS Lieutenant Colonel Joachim Piper, called Jochen by his men, one of the most decorated and controversial figures in the Waffen-SS. Piper was born January 30th, 1915 in Berlin, son of a World War I veteran. His father, Voldemar Piper, had been an officer in the Imperial German Army. Joachim grew up in chaos of post-WWI Germany, economic collapse, political violence, humiliation of Treaty of Versailles. In this environment, the Nazi Party found millions of supporters, young men like Joachim Piper. At 18 in October 1933, Piper joined the SS, the Schutzstaffel, Hitler's elite paramilitary organization. By 1934, he was admitted to Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, the Führer's personal bodyguard regiment, the most prestigious unit in the SS. Membership was restricted. You had to be tall, physically perfect, Aryan features, fanatical loyalty to Nazi ideology. Piper had all that. By 1938, at age 23, Piper caught Heinrich Himmler's attention. Reichsführer SS, head of entire SS organization, architect of the Holocaust. Himmler made Piper his personal adjutant. For 3 years, 1938-1941, Piper worked directly for Himmler, traveled with him, attended meetings, witnessed the SS implement Hitler's racial policies, the mass murder of Jews in occupied Poland, establishment of extermination camps, systematic genocide that would kill 6 million people. Piper saw all this. As Himmler's adjutant, he had access to classified information about SS operations. He knew what was happening, was part of the machinery that made it happen. After the war, Piper denied this, claimed he was just a soldier, said he never participated in or knew about the Holocaust. But historical record proves otherwise. In 1941, Piper requested combat assignment, wanted to fight, not sit behind desk. He was assigned to 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler, his old unit now reorganized as Armored Division. Piper commanded a tank battalion, then a regiment, fought in invasion of Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa, June 1941, largest military invasion in history. On Eastern Front, Piper developed reputation: aggressive, ruthless, willing to take casualties to achieve objectives. His unit participated in multiple war crimes, mass executions of Soviet prisoners, killing of civilians, burning of villages. In summer 1941, elements of Leibstandarte murdered Soviet POWs in multiple incidents. Piper commanded one of the battalions involved in these operations. He later claimed he wasn't present during actual killings, but as battalion commander bore command responsibility. By 1943, Piper was full SS lieutenant colonel at 28, one of youngest regimental commanders in German military. He received Knight's Cross with oak leaves, then swords, one of Germany's highest decorations for combat leadership. Hitler personally awarded him the swords. The Führer considered Piper a model SS officer: brave, fanatical, absolutely loyal. In Italy, September 1943, Piper's unit occupied village of Boves. Italian partisans killed 2 German soldiers. Piper ordered reprisals. His men rounded up Italian civilians, shot 22 of them, then burned the village. Women, children, civilians who had nothing to do with partisan attack, murdered because Piper wanted to send a message. After the war, Piper was investigated for Boves massacre. Italian government wanted him tried for war crimes, but case never went to trial. Insufficient evidence of Piper's direct orders. His subordinates took blame. By December 1944, Piper had been fighting 3 years, Eastern Front, Italy, now back in West, commanding Kampfgruppe Piper, spearhead of Ardennes offensive. His orders were clear: move fast, reach the Meuse, don't let anything slow you down. Piper understood what this meant. On Eastern Front, don't let anything slow you down meant killing prisoners, meant destroying villages that might harbor resistance fighters, meant showing no mercy to anyone who got in your way. Some historians argue Piper never explicitly ordered Malmedy massacre, that it happened without his knowledge, that he was miles ahead of Crossroads when shooting started. This is technically true. Piper's command vehicle passed through Baugny before American convoy arrived. He didn't witness the massacre. But he created the environment where massacres happened. His battalion killed prisoners at Hansfeld that morning, at Billingen, hours before Malmedy. His men knew what was expected: speed, ruthlessness, no delays for processing prisoners. Under laws of war, as commanding officer, Piper bore responsibility for actions of his men, even if he didn't pull trigger himself, even if he wasn't present when machine guns opened fire. He commanded the unit, set the tone, created the culture that made Malmedy possible. In the SS, they had a motto: Meine Ehre heißt Treue. My honor is loyalty. Loyalty to Hitler, loyalty to Nazi ideology, loyalty to SS brotherhood. For men like Joachim Piper, this loyalty meant following orders no matter how brutal, no matter how criminal, no matter what Geneva Convention said. December 17, 1944, at Baugny Crossroads, that loyalty produced the worst atrocity committed against American troops in European theater. The machine guns fire for 30 seconds non-stop, continuous roar of automatic weapons from multiple positions. Americans scream, fall, run, die. Kenneth Ahrens drops to frozen ground the instant firing starts, doesn't think about it. Pure survival instinct: get down, get low, make yourself small. He lands face first in snow, tastes blood, his own or someone else's, he can't tell. Bodies collapse on top of him, weight crushing, 3 men, maybe 4, dead or dying, pinning him to earth. Ahrens doesn't move, doesn't breathe, plays dead. Machine gun fire continues, bullets thud into corpses around him. Some Americans are running, trying to reach tree line 50 yards away. German machine gunners track them, mow them down, bodies crumple in snow. Blood spreads across white field, bright red, impossible to miss. Machine guns finally stop, silence for maybe 10 seconds. Then moaning starts. Wounded Americans crying for help, calling for medics, begging for water. Ahrens hears boots crunching in snow, German voices getting closer. SS soldiers walking through field of bodies checking for survivors. A wounded American 20 feet from Ahrens starts to pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Single pistol shot. Prayer stops. Boots continue moving methodically through field. Ahrens holds breath, tries not to shake. His body wants to tremble from cold and terror. He forces himself still. absolutely motionless beneath corpses. German soldier stops 3 feet from him. Ahrens hears the man breathing, hear creak of leather equipment. Soldier kicks one of bodies lying on top of Ahrens, testing for movement. Ahrens doesn't flinch. German moves on. Another groan somewhere to Ahrens' left, another pistol shot. This continues for eternity. Boots, groans, pistol shots. SS soldiers are thorough, shoot anyone who makes sound, anyone who moves, anyone still breathing. Private Ted Paluch is lying in snow 30 yards from Ahrens, dropped when firing started, landed between two corpses, blood from dead men soaks into his uniform. He lies perfectly still, eyes closed, breath held. German soldier walks past him, stops. Paluch feels rifle barrel press against his head. Soldier is checking, making sure he's dead. Paluch doesn't move, doesn't breathe, doesn't react. Rifle barrel pulls away. German moves on. Paluch survived by not moving 60 seconds with gun pressed to skull. Lieutenant Virgil Larry, the battery commander, is on ground shot in arm during initial machine gun burst but conscious, alive, pretending to be dead while bleeding into snow. Germans walk past him twice, never realize he's alive. Private William Merrican ran for tree line when shooting started, made it halfway, got hit in leg, went down in snow. Now he's crawling, pulling himself toward woods inch by inch. German soldier sees him, raises rifle, fires, misses. Merrican freezes, plays dead. German walks over, stands above him. Merrican doesn't breathe. German kicks him hard. Merrican doesn't react. German kicks him again. Still no reaction. Soldier moves on, looking for other survivors. Merrican waits 5 minutes, then starts crawling again, makes it to tree line, disappears into woods. He'll survive. Corporal Michael Saranko is lying beneath 4 bodies, wasn't hit during machine gun fire, just dropped and got lucky when dead men fell on him, shielded him from follow-up shots. Now he's waiting, listening to Germans walk through field, listening to his friends die. German stops next to him. Saranko sees soldier's boots, black leather covered in mud and snow. German fires pistol into pile of bodies. 3 shots, 1 bullet passes inches from Saranko's head, hits corpse above him. German moves on. Saranko doesn't move for another hour. Homer Ford, the military policeman directing traffic, is shot in initial burst, multiple wounds, chest, abdomen, legs. He's conscious but dying, lying in snow, bleeding out. He sees German soldier approach wounded American 10 feet away. Wounded man is crying. "Please, I have wife, kids, please don't." German shoots him in head, turns to Ford. Ford closes eyes, stops breathing. German walks past. Ford survives barely. He'll make it to American lines and testify about what he saw. Systematic execution of wounded prisoners. Methodical murder of men, begging for mercy. 30 minutes after machine guns opened fire, German column finishes moving through crossroads. Half-tracks and armored cars that stayed behind to guard prisoners now roll away, continuing west, following Kampfgruppe Piper toward Meuse. Field falls silent. 84 Americans dead, shot down after surrendering, executed in violation of every rule of warfare. But approximately 43 men survived, some by playing dead, some by running, some by sheer luck. Kenneth Ahrens waits until he can't hear any German vehicles, then waits longer, counts to 500. Finally, slowly, he pushes bodies off him, his hands numb, covered in blood, frozen. He looks around field, bodies everywhere, some face down in snow, some on backs staring at gray December sky, some in groups where they fell when machine guns fired, others scattered across field where they tried to run. Ahrens sees movement 20 yards away, another survivor crawling toward tree line. Ahrens crawls too, doesn't stand, doesn't want to be visible from road. Snow is red with blood. He crawls through it, past friends, past men he trained with, past soldiers who were alive 30 minutes ago. He reaches tree line, finds 3 other survivors, Ted Paluch, William Merrican, Private Albert Valenzi from New Jersey. They don't speak, just nod, acknowledge each other, then start moving through woods north toward Malmedy, toward American lines. Temperature dropping, sun sets in 2 hours. They need to reach safety before dark, because if caught by German patrols in woods, the SS won't take them prisoner twice. They stumble through forest wounded, freezing, traumatized. At 4:30 p.m., they encounter American patrol, 291st Combat Engineer Battalion. Engineers are startled, 4 men covered in blood, half frozen. "What happened?" Engineer Lieutenant asks. Ahrens tries to speak, can't, finally manages 1 sentence. "They shot us, we surrendered, and they shot all of us." Lieutenant doesn't understand. "Who shot you?" "SS," German SS at the crossroads, they machine-gunned the whole battery, everyone with hands up. Lieutenant's face goes pale. How many? All of us. Maybe 150 men. I don't know how many made it out. News spreads through American units within hours. By evening, officers across front hearing reports of massacre, Americans executed after surrendering, machine-gunned in field, finished off with pistol shots to head. First Army Headquarters at Spa receives initial reports 5 p.m. General Courtney Hodges, First Army Commander, reads field reports, 84 confirmed dead, multiple witnesses describing systematic execution. Hodges picks up phone, calls Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, gets through to General Eisenhower's Chief of Staff. "We have a situation," Hodges says. "The Germans are killing prisoners." January 14th, 1945, 28 days after massacre. American forces finally secure Bonnier Crossroads. Battle of Bulge almost over, German forces retreating, pushed back to original positions, great offensive failed, but field at Bonnier remains frozen, untouched since December 17th. Team from U.S. Army Graves Registration Service arrives at Crossroads led by Captain John Snell. Their mission: recover bodies, document crime scene, gather evidence for war crimes prosecution. They find field buried under 2 feet of snow. Month of winter covered everything. But they know where to look. Survivors drew maps, marked locations, described what they saw. Graves registration team starts digging. First body they find is Private James O'Brien from Massachusetts, 22 years old, frozen solid, face down in snow, bullet wound in back of head. They tag him number 1. Then another, Private Paul Gachot from New York, 24, multiple bullet wounds, chest and abdomen, tag number 2. Team works methodically, digging through snow, finding bodies, documenting positions, recording wounds, taking photographs. It's gruesome work. Bodies frozen, preserved by cold, but wounds are clear, obvious. Many have bullet holes in back of head, close-range shots, execution wounds. Others have multiple wounds, machine gun fire then finished with pistols. Pattern is unmistakable. This wasn't combat. This was murder. By end of day, they've recovered 72 bodies, all identified as Battery B 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion, all killed December 17, 1944. Each body photographed, tagged with number, wounds documented, location marked on map. Evidence is overwhelming. Captain Snell writes report that night. Clear evidence of systematic execution of prisoners of war. Multiple victims show wounds consistent with execution-style shooting. Bodies found in positions indicating they were standing in groups when fired upon. Some victims found near tree line indicating they were shot while fleeing. Recommend immediate investigation for war crimes violations. Report goes up chain to First Army Headquarters, to Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, to General Eisenhower's office. Eisenhower reads it, passes to legal team, orders full investigation. Word goes out, find the men who did this. U.S. Army creates War Crimes Investigation Unit led by Lieutenant Colonel Burton Ellis. Their mission: identify SS units involved in massacre, find commanders, gather evidence, prepare for prosecution. Ellis assembles team, investigators, translators, legal experts. They start with survivors. Kenneth Ahrens called in, sits across from investigator in Paris office, March 11, 1945. Captain John A. Barnett asks questions. State your name and rank. Sergeant Kenneth F. Ahrens, serial number 33409504. What unit were you assigned December 17, 1944? Battery B 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion. Describe what happened at Bonnier Crossroads. Ahrens takes deep breath. He's told this story to doctors, chaplains, other soldiers, but this is official, for the record. We were moving south on road to St. Vith. Around 1 p.m. German tanks appeared, fired on our convoy. We surrendered. How many men surrendered? I don't know exactly. Maybe 120, maybe more. What happened after you surrendered? They put us in field, hands up. We stood there maybe 15 minutes, then they shot us. Describe how they shot you. Ahrens closes eyes, sees it again. Machine guns, screaming, bodies falling. Machine guns from half tracks. They just opened fire. No warning. We were standing hands up and they opened fire. I dropped. Bodies fell on me. Then Germans walked through field shooting anyone who moved. Did you see Germans shoot wounded Americans? Yes, I heard them. Heard Americans groaning. Then pistol shots. Groaning would stop. How long did you remain under bodies? Maybe 2 hours. I don't know. Felt like forever. When did you escape? When I couldn't hear German vehicles anymore, I crawled to tree line, found 3 other guys. We made it to Malmedy. Barnett writes everything down, every detail, then asks Aarons to sign statement. "This will be used in court," Barnett says. "You'll probably have to testify." Aarons nods. "Good. I want to testify. Those bastards shot my friends, shot them after they surrendered. I want everyone to know what they did." Investigators interview 28 other survivors. Each tells same story. Machine guns, pistol shots, systematic execution. Pattern is consistent, undeniable. Meanwhile, investigation identifies German unit responsible. Kampfgruppe Piper, 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler, commanded by SS Lieutenant Colonel Joachim Piper. Now question is, where is Piper? The hunt. May 8, 1945, Germany surrenders, World War II and Europe over. But for U.S. Army war crimes, investigators' work just beginning. They have list of names, SS officers, soldiers, anyone connected to Kampfgruppe Piper, anyone who might have been at Baugny's Crossroads December 17, 1944. Joachim Piper at top of list. Investigators know he commanded battle group. Even if he wasn't present at exact moment of massacre, he's responsible, command responsibility. Under international law, commanding officer responsible for actions of troops, especially war crimes. Search for Piper starts in chaos of occupied Germany, millions of German soldiers surrendering, POW camps overflowing, SS officers trying to hide, changing identities, destroying records, blending in with regular Wehrmacht troops. But investigators are systematic. Start with known members of Leibstandarte Division, SS soldiers captured during Battle of Bulge. Interrogations begin. Who was at Crossroads? Who gave orders? Who pulled triggers? Some SS soldiers cooperate, others refuse to talk. Code of loyalty runs deep in SS. But one by one, investigators build case. They identify Werner Poetschke, SS Major, Commander 1st Panzer Battalion. Multiple witnesses place him at Crossroads. They identify Georg Fleps, SS Private First Class, tank driver. Witnesses say he fired one of machine guns. They identify over 70 SS soldiers who were part of Kampfgruppe Piper and potentially involved in Malmedy and other massacres. August 1945, U.S. forces locate Joachim Piper in POW camp in Bavaria. Had been using real name, hadn't tried to hide. Investigators move him to special detention facility Schwäbisch Hall near Stuttgart, former Wehrmacht barracks converted to hold SS war crimes suspects. Over 1,000 former SS soldiers held there, all waiting investigation, interrogation, possible prosecution. Piper isolated, questioned daily December 1945 to March 1946. Interrogations intense. Investigators confront Piper with witness statements, survivor testimony, evidence from massacre site. Piper denies everything. "I wasn't at Crossroads when it happened. I was with lead elements miles ahead. I had no knowledge of any massacre." Investigators push back. "You commanded battle group. You're responsible for your men." Piper doesn't back down. "My men were following orders, combat orders. We were told move fast, don't waste time on prisoners. That came from higher command." From who? From division command? From army command? Ultimately from Hitler himself. "We were ordered show no mercy, terror tactics. That was planned for Ardennes offensive." Interrogators make notes. Sepp Dietrich 6th, SS Panzer Army Commander. Hermann Priess Y, SS Panzer Corps Commander. Fritz Kramer, Chief of Staff. If Piper telling truth massacre wasn't just action of one battle group, it was policy from top down. By March 1946, investigators have enough evidence to proceed with trial. 74 defendants, all members Leibstandarte Division, all connected to massacres during Battle of Bulge. Not just Malmedy, there were other incidents. At Hansfeld, 19 Americans killed. At Billingen, 50 Americans killed. At Ligneville, 5 Americans killed. At Stavelot, 130 Belgian civilians killed. In total, over 350 Americans, and over 100 Belgian civilians murdered by Kampfgruppe Piper during offensive. Malmedy was largest single incident, but part of pattern, systematic campaign of terror and murder. April 16, 1946, 300 prisoners transferred from Schwäbisch Hall to Dachau, former concentration camp now operated by U.S. Army as war crimes trial facility. Choice of location deliberate, symbolic. SS had operated Dachau concentration camp, murdered thousands there. Now SS war criminals would be tried there. Poetic justice. May 16, 1946, Malmedy massacre trial begins. Officially United States versus Valentin Bersin et al. Valentin Bersin's name first alphabetically among defendants, but everyone knows real focus is Joachim Piper. Courtroom packed. 8 American officers serve as judges. Military tribunal operating under rules established by Nuremberg trials. 74 defendants sit in rows. each wearing numbered card around neck. Piper is number 42. Prosecution led by Lieutenant Colonel Burton Ellis, same investigator who built case. Defense led by Colonel Willis Everett, experienced military lawyer from Atlanta, Georgia, who believes in due process even for SS war criminals, even for men accused murdering American soldiers. Trial will last 2 months, May 16th to July 16th, 60 days of testimony, hundreds of witnesses, thousands of pages evidence. Ellis opens for prosecution. Gentlemen, evidence will show that between December 16th and 25th, 1944, members of 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler systematically murdered at least 538 American prisoners of war and over 90 Belgian civilians. These murders were not result of combat, not accidents. They were deliberate, planned, ordered by defendants' commanders, and executed by men sitting before you. This court will hear from American soldiers who survived these massacres, from Belgian civilians who witnessed murder of their neighbors. You will see photographs of American soldiers shot in back of head while lying wounded in snow. This is not warfare. This is murder, and these men must be held accountable. First witnesses are Malmedy survivors. Kenneth Ahrens takes stand, raises right hand, swears to tell truth, sits, looks at 74 defendants, recognizes none of them. They all look same. German soldiers, SS uniforms removed, now wearing civilian clothes or prisoner uniforms. But Ahrens knows what they did. Ellis asks questions. Sergeant Ahrens, please describe what happened December 17, 1944. Ahrens tells story. Convoy, ambush, surrender, field, machine guns, pistol shots. He speaks calmly, factually, no emotion, just facts. They shot us after we surrendered. We had hands up, we were disarmed, we were prisoners, and they machine-gunned us. Ellis shows him photographs, bodies in snow. Do you recognize this location? Yes, sir. That's field at Bonnier Crossroads. Do you recognize any of these victims? Ahrens looks at photos, sees faces he knew, friends, fellow soldiers. Yes, sir. That's Private James O'Brien. We trained together at Fort Sill. That's Corporal Henry Zack. He was from Pennsylvania near my hometown. Ellis lets impact settle. How many men from your battery killed at Malmedy? 84, sir. And how many survived? About 40. Some ran. Some played dead. I played dead under corpses 2 hours. Courtroom silent. One of judges, Colonel from Texas, leans forward. Did you see any defendants shoot prisoners? I saw SS soldiers shoot 2 Americans before machine guns opened fire. After that I was on ground, but I heard pistol shots, heard wounded men die. SS walked through field killing anyone who moved. More survivors testify. Ted Paluch, Homer Ford, Lieutenant Virgil Larry. Each tells same story. Surrender, machine guns, execution. Belgian civilians testify too from town of Stavelot, where Kampfgruppe Piper murdered 130 civilians. Elderly woman describes watching SS soldiers shoot her neighbors. Priest describes burying bodies, children, women, old men, killed because they were in Piper's way. Then prosecution presents written confessions, nearly 100 sworn statements from SS soldiers. Some confess to shooting prisoners, others describe receiving orders to show no mercy. Georg Fleps admits he fired machine gun at Bonnier Crossroads. I was following orders. Fritz Geiberger testifies his platoon leader told him, shoot all prisoners. No exceptions. Don't waste time processing POWs. Evidence is overwhelming. But then Colonel Everett begins defense. His strategy clear. These men were soldiers following orders, didn't plan massacre, didn't create policy, were following Hitler's directive for Ardennes offensive, terror tactics, no mercy, speed above all. Everett calls character witnesses. SS officers testify Piper was brave commander who cared about his men, wouldn't order murder of prisoners. Everett calls Major Harold McCown, American officer, battalion commander 30th Infantry Division, captured by Kampfgruppe Piper during Battle of Bulge, held prisoner several days, then released when Piper escaped encirclement. Major McCown, how were you treated while in German custody? Well, sir, Colonel Piper treated me according to Geneva Convention. I was given food, shelter, medical attention for wounded Americans who were with me. Did Colonel Piper discuss Malmedy massacre with you? Yes, sir. He told me he hadn't ordered it, that it happened without his knowledge. Did you believe him? McCown hesitates. At time, yes. He seemed genuinely upset when I mentioned it. This testimony helps Piper, suggests he didn't personally order massacre, but doesn't absolve him of command responsibility. Everett also challenges confessions, claims they were obtained through coercion, physical abuse, psychological torture. Some SS prisoners claim they were beaten, threatened, mock trials held, families threatened with deportation to Soviet zones. Prosecution denies this, but it creates doubt. Were confessions voluntary or forced? Trial drags on week after week. Testimony, cross-examination, evidence, debate. Finally, July 11, 1946, verdict announced. All 73 defendants found guilty. 43 sentenced to death by hanging, including Joachim Peiper. 22 sentenced to life imprisonment. Rest sentenced 10 to 20 years. Peiper shows no emotion when verdict read, stands at attention, accepts sentence. But case isn't over. Appeals begin immediately. Colonel Everett files motions challenging trial procedures, confessions, evidence. Years pass. Death sentences never carried out. By 1948, Cold War changes everything. United States needs West Germany as ally against Soviet Union. German public opinion matters now. Pressure builds to review Malmedy sentences. German church leaders, some imprisoned by Nazis themselves, condemn trial as unjust. American politicians get involved. Senator Joseph McCarthy holds hearings, claims confessions obtained through torture. Never mind, McCarthy has own political agenda. Publicity works. By 1951, all death sentences commuted to life imprisonment. By 1956, all Malmedy defendants released, including Joachim Peiper. He's 41 years old, served just 10 years for massacre that killed 84 Americans, for war crimes that killed over 600 people. 10 years. After release in 1956, Joachim Peiper tries rebuilding life. Gets job at Porsche, then Volkswagen, works as translator, uses language skills, keeps head down, tries staying out of public eye. He moves to France 1972, buys small house in village of Traves near Saône River. It's quiet, rural, far from Germany, far from his past, or so he thinks. Peiper lives there with wife Sigurd, their children grown, moved away, started own lives. Peiper spends days translating military history books, walking dogs, living quietly, uses real name, doesn't hide identity. French authorities know who he is, gave him residence permit anyway. For 4 years it works. Peiper lives peacefully. No one bothers him. But 1976 French magazine publishes article about Nazis living in France. They identify Peiper, former SS officer, war criminal, living in Traves. Article includes his address. French Communist Party members in region take notice. Former resistance fighters read article. They remember World War II, remember SS, remember what Germans did to France. July 13th, 1976. Peiper receives threatening letters, phone calls. We know who you are. We know what you did. Your house will burn. Peiper calls police. They say they'll investigate, but there's not much they can do. July 14th, 1976. Bastille Day. Peiper's wife away visiting friends. Peiper alone in house with 2 dogs. Around midnight, attackers approach. Pour gasoline around house. Light it on fire. Wooden structure burns quickly. Peiper grabs rifle. Fires several shots through windows trying to defend himself. Attackers fire back. House engulfed in flames. By time firefighters arrive, it's too late. House destroyed. Joachim Peiper dead, burned to death at 61 in exact same way his SS troops burned Belgian civilians at Stavelot, December 1944. Irony not lost on anyone. Group calling itself the Avengers claims responsibility. They're never identified, never caught. French investigation goes nowhere. To this day, no one knows for certain who killed Peiper. Former resistance fighters, communists, Avengers acting on behalf of murdered civilians doesn't matter. Joachim Peiper, who escaped hangman in 1946, who served only 10 years for murdering hundreds, finally faced justice, not in courtroom, not by legal execution, but in flames of his own burning house. Kenneth Ahrens returned to America after war, went back to Erie, Pennsylvania, got job at General Electric in Kentucky, worked as payroll manager 38 years, married, had family, lived normal life. But he never forgot December 17, 1944. He returned to Belgium multiple times, stood at Bonnier Crossroads, visited memorial, stone monument erected at massacre site, 86 names carved into wall, all Americans killed that day. Ahrens would stand there remembering Private James O'Brien, Corporal Henry Zack, Sergeant William Summers, Lieutenant Kenneth Nielsen, friends, fellow soldiers, men who surrendered and were murdered. In 2004, Kenneth Ahrens died age 83, buried Louisville, Kentucky, one of last survivors of Malmedy massacre. Ted Paluch, another survivor, returned to Belgium for 60th anniversary December 2004, age 84, walked through field where he'd played dead 2 hours, talked to reporters, described what happened. I wasn't hero, he said. I was just lucky. I dropped when shooting started. Didn't move. German put gun to my head. I didn't breathe. He moved on. That's only reason I'm alive. Paluch died 2015, age 95. Last known survivor of Malmedy massacre, Harold Billow, died May 17, 2022, age 99. He'd been private in Battery B, 21 years old at time of massacre, played dead in snow, crawled to safety, testified at trial. For 77 years after Malmedy, Billow carried memory, weight of survival, burden of witnessing. Before he died, he gave interviews, spoke to schools, made sure people knew what happened at Malmedy. They need to know, he said. Young people need to understand what happened. Not just that we won war, but what it cost, what we saw, what was done. Massacre at Malmedy is commemorated now. Museum stands at Bonnier Crossroads. Field where 84 Americans died is preserved. Memorial with all their names. American flag flies there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, maintained by Belgian government and American veterans groups. Every December 17th ceremony is held, wreaths laid, names read. Survivors attended for decades after war, then their children attended, now their grandchildren attend, keeping memory alive. Because what happened at Malmedy can't be forgotten. It was largest single mass execution of American troops in European theater, war crime, violation of every rule of warfare. And it changed how Americans fought rest of World War II. After Malmedy, there was no mercy for Waffen-SS. American soldiers who captured SS troops often didn't take prisoners. Unofficial policy of shooting SS captives lasted through end of war. It was wrong, violated Geneva Convention, but soldiers who'd heard about Malmedy didn't care. They'd seen what SS did to their friends. They responded in kind. This is legacy of Malmedy. Not just 84 dead Americans, but cycle of violence, brutality met with brutality, war crimes creating more war crimes. Geneva Convention exists for reason. Rules of war exist to prevent exactly what happened at Bonnier Crossroads. When one side breaks rules, other side breaks them too, and everyone loses. December 17, 1944 changed Kenneth Aaron's life forever. He went to Belgium as young soldier, technician, someone who called in coordinates for artillery strikes. He came home survivor of worst atrocity committed against American troops in World War II. For rest of his life he carried that weight. Memory of friends murdered in frozen field, sound of machine guns, German voices walking through corpses, feeling of playing dead while men died around him. But Aaron's also carried sense of purpose. He testified at trial, told truth about what happened, made sure world knew what SS did at Malmedy. And for decades afterward, he returned to Belgium, stood at memorial, remembered 84 men who didn't make it home. This is why Malmedy matters, not just as historical footnote, not just as war crime statistic, but as reminder of what happens when rules break down, when soldiers stop treating prisoners as human beings, when commanders order no mercy, when ideology trumps humanity. SS at Malmedy weren't defending Germany. They were following orders from regime that believed some people deserved to die simply because they existed. Jews, prisoners of war, civilians, enemy soldiers who surrendered. To SS, they were all same, obstacles to be removed by any means necessary. This is what fascism looks like in practice, not speeches, not rallies, but soldiers in Belgian field machine-gunning prisoners. 84. Americans murdered December 17, 1944, shot down after surrendering, executed in violation of every rule of warfare. Their names on memorial at Bonnier Crossroads, their story told in museums and history books, their sacrifice remembered every December 17th. But real lesson of Malmedy isn't just about remembering dead, it's about preventing it from happening again. Geneva Convention exists to protect prisoners of war. International law exists to hold war criminals accountable. These rules matter, not because they prevent all atrocities, but because they establish standard of humanity, even in warfare. When soldiers ignore those rules, when commanders order massacres, when governments sanction terror, we get Malmedy. We get 84 dead Americans in Belgian field. We get Kenneth Aaron's playing dead under corpses. We get survivors who never forgot what they witnessed. Men who committed Malmedy massacre were convicted then released. Most lived long lives. Joachim Peiper lived until 1976, died in house fire set by unknown attackers. Some call it justice, others call it revenge. Either way, it doesn't bring back 84 Americans who died at Malmedy, doesn't erase Kenneth Aaron's memories, doesn't undo brutality of December 17, 1944. But it serves as a reminder that war crimes have consequences. Not always, not quickly, not perfectly, but eventually truth comes out. Perpetrators are identified. Justice, however imperfect, is pursued. This is why we remember Malmedy, not to glorify war, not to demonize Germans, but to understand what happens when humanity fails, when soldiers become murderers, when commanders become war criminals, when ideology trumps decency. 84. Americans died at Malmedy, but their story survived. Told by Kenneth Ahrens, told by Ted Peluche, told by Harold Billow, told by survivors who lived to testify, who made sure world knew what happened in that frozen Belgian field. That's real victory, not revenge, not justice through fire, but truth, preserved, documented, remembered, forever.